welcome to today's Coffee with Craig. I am Craig. This is my coffee, and I'm honored to have you as my guest. So, before we get started, though, I'd like you to do me a favor and go ahead and share this live feed so that your friends and family, whoever's following you on Facebook, can join into the conversation. So, today we're going to talk about history, or rather, revisionist history. We all know that it is a tactic of our friends, our gun-grabbing friends on the left, to either attempt to redefine things or to rewrite history in order to fit a narrative that supports their particular cause. We all know, for example, that there's never been a communist governmental system that's ever worked anywhere, but that doesn't keep them from promoting communism and saying places like Cuba work. Which, by the way, also happens to be mostly socialist. But I will digress. But we all know that this is a tactic that they do, and they've attempted to do the exact same thing here when it comes to the Second Amendment. And they've done so in a recent article at Salon.com, where they attempted to say that James Madison, the author of the Second Amendment, actually had no intention of supporting the right to keep and bear arms. Rather, he wrote the Second Amendment as a way in which to keep individuals from being forced to serve in their state militia. Now, I find that to be quite interesting, seeing as how it was a complete and utter rewrite of history, seeing as how, I'll just give you this first. The first thing to understand is they use as their foundation the original draft of the Second Amendment as written by Mr. Madison. And that reads, "The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, a well-armed and regulated militia being the best security of a free country, but no person religiously scrupulous of bearing arms shall be compelled to render military service in person." Now, first of all, I don't understand why that does not state the right to keep and bear arms, because actually it is now written firstly. But secondly, the second item that is included in there, once again, simply says that if you are a religious person for whom it is against your religion to serve in the militia, then you shall not be forced to serve in the militia. But it in no way says that the right to keep and bear arms is allowed to be infringed. So I don't understand where their argument comes from. The other thing is this, and this is probably the most important part. That's not what made it into the Constitution. I know, right? That's not what's there. That's not what was in the Constitution. That's not what was voted on by those that were at the Constitutional Convention. That's not what was ratified by all of the states. That's not there. So even if the intent, the original intent was, as Salon.com would say, well, guess what? That isn't what it actually says. That's not what they intended. If that's what they intended to do, then why didn't they write that? Well, that's just one thing. Now, there's actually a great article that was written at Red State. And you guys got to, if you get a chance, you got to check this article out as well. It's entitled, "Salon Shoots at the Second Amendment but Kills History by Mistake." Now, the only disagreement that I have with the folks at Red State on this particular piece is that I don't believe that it was a mistake. It was clearly done on purpose. They clearly intended to try and rewrite history because that's the only way they can win. They can only win by cheating, lying, and by misrepresenting what it actually says. Now, in their particular piece, they point out a couple of things that I've already pointed out, but they also note how in most of the state constitutions, they actually had laws. Most of the colonies, they actually had laws requiring individuals to be a part of the militia. Not just requiring them necessarily to be a part of the militia, but requiring them to be armed. And if they couldn't afford to be armed, then the county was going to then, in many cases, provide a firearm for them. Why? So that the state could have a militia. They weren't going to, it is unfathomable to me the degree to which folks will go to lie in order to make their point. But we all know. I mean, this was written by Ed Asner. You guys know Ed Asner, right? The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Yeah, that's who wrote this. He is the Second Amendment constitutional expert that wrote this particular piece at Salon, which is one of the other reasons why you really can't take anything they say seriously, except to say this. There are a whole lot of not too bright people who read stuff like this and they take it as gospel because they don't know any better. I am so glad. I am so glad that you do. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the fight for our civil rights. Remember, civil rights, got to use them or we're going to lose them.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.